This is going to be the ultimate in-depth YouTube influencer marketing related guide that you can follow to run successful campaigns for your e-commerce store using YouTube influencers. We're going to be going over everything you need to know in terms of running successful promotions on YouTube, everything from how to find great influencers, how much to pay these influencers, how to structure your ads, best practices, how to scale, and basically everything you need to know in terms of running successful campaigns on YouTube. So just before we get started, if you are coming across me for the first time, my name is Alex. I've been running Shopify e-commerce stores for 5 years now. I've worked with thousands of influencers. I've spent well over £1 million in influencer ads, so I sort of understand how this influencer space works. Okay guys, so let's start off with what should we actually look for in great influencers? How do we actually identify them? But there's a few things we can actually look at. The first thing I would say is that by default, YouTubers are going to have much more authentic and real audiences than the majority of Instagram influencers. The reason behind that is just because of the nature of the platform. On Instagram, it's very easy to buy likes and buy comments, and you can easily prop up your numbers to make it look like you have great engagement. But on YouTube, everything is really about the content. So if you don't have great video content and you don't have a real audience, chances are you're not going to maintain views for multiple videos and actually go viral. YouTube really requires you to put in much more effort than taking a simple Instagram photo does, and just by default that just means that more people on YouTube have more legit audiences than people on Instagram would have. But that does mean that you don't have to be as careful when you are vetting out YouTube influencers. YouTubers have spent months, if not years, building up loyal, engaged communities. And just because of that, they're able to convert people on offers much more easier than Instagram influencers are able to do, just because they have a much more stronger relationship and affinity with their audiences. So what do we specifically look for in great influencers, and how do we pick them out? The first thing you always look at is the engagement on videos, specifically how many views a video has compared to the number of subscribers a channel has. Usually 10% is a really strong metric in terms of a subscriber to view ratio. So if someone has 2 million subscribers and they're getting 200,000 views on every single video, then that's a great sign. Now there are a few things you need to keep in mind when you are looking at subscriber to view count ratio. If someone is posting every single day and they're just pushing out a lot of content, it's very unlikely that they'll have a 10% engagement rate, just because they're pushing out loads of videos and the subscribers probably won't watch every single video that they push out. But if they're only posting once a month or once a week, chances are that they'll have a higher amount of views on those specific videos just because they're posting at a lower frequency. I can almost guarantee if someone like Mr. Beast or Dude Perfect started posting videos every single day, their engagement rate would drop, but if they're only posting videos once a week or once a month, they would have a high amount of views on those videos. So it's really important that you don't judge influencers the wrong way just because they have a lower engagement rate or what looks like a lower engagement rate, but that's only because they're posting loads and loads of content. If someone is posting every single day and they're getting 10% engagement rate, then perfect, that's a great influencer. But even 5% engagement rate or even 3 or 4% is pretty decent for someone who's posting every single day. Also, something that you'll find is that the bigger the influencer is, the lower the engagement rate will be. And that's just something that you see on Instagram as well. The bigger someone is, the lower amount of likes they'll get, proportionate to the number of subscribers or followers that they have. So FaZe is pretty much an exception here because his videos get over 10% engagement rate and he's posting multiple times a week. So he's a good example of an influencer that has great engagement and we would be down to work with. The reason why engagement rate is so important on YouTube is because it shows that the influencer's channel is not dead, that he didn't used to be popular and now not as popular. You want to work with influencers who still have loyal, authentic audiences that will actually purchase your products. So if they're not getting many views on the videos, it means that the audience kind of died out, or maybe the influencer isn't posting as good content, and chances are your promotion won't go well if you're working with an influencer who has a lot of subscribers but they don't get many views. That's why it's very important that when you vet out influencers, you want to make sure that they're getting at least 5% engagement rate on their videos, again depending on how often they're posting and also depending on how big they are. If it's a really small channel, then getting 10% engagement rate on videos should be pretty straightforward. The second metric that you can look at is the view to like ratio. And this is simply the number of likes someone gets on a video in proportion to the number of views they get. So 10% for view to like is pretty much the very, very high end. It's pretty rare that you will see it, but when you do see it, it's a great sign. But anything above 5 to 6% is pretty good as well. You can see that FaZe's view to like ratio on screen there is just below 5%. Now this might just be because the video was a random off video, it wasn't as good as people liked, it wasn't quite as good as people expected, but in general the more views that a video has, the lower percentage view to like ratio you'll see, so I wouldn't be too strict about it when it comes to really, really big influencers. But when it's a smaller creator, someone who gets 100,000 views, 5 to 10,000 likes should be the minimum that they're looking for. So again, make sure you're working with trending influencers or someone who's still currently popular at the moment. Don't work with old influencers or someone who used to be popular but kind of died out now. Just because they have a huge number of subscribers doesn't mean that they'll actually convert for you. And you can see the same thing on Instagram. There's loads of people with millions of followers, maybe ex-TV stars, or people who used to be celebrities but their show got cancelled or whatever. These people have millions of followers, but they only get a couple of 10,000 likes on an Instagram post. And even though they might drive a few sales, it's not going to be the amount that you're looking for, and it probably won't even break even. So make sure you're working with people who have good engagement rates on YouTube, because that's the most important metric in terms of measuring affinity and relationship with the audience, which is basically everything. So I've got a couple of examples here. If you pop over to Face's channel, you can see he has nearly 21 million subscribers, and all his videos get at least 2 million views, so it's well above 10%. And you can see he's posting multiple times a week, so over 10% when you're posting multiple times a week is just a very, very great sign. We can see another channel over here. I found this channel on my explore page, and we can see that she has 516,000 subscribers, but she's getting well over 20-25% subscriber to view rate on every single video. And if we click onto one of her videos, we can see that she's getting 7.7 thousand likes, which is just about 7-8% on this specific video. And this would be another great example of an influencer that we would potentially look to work with. Now you can see over here we have another channel. This channel has 2.9 million subscribers, and these guys are posting videos every single day. So naturally their subscriber to view count will be much less and engagement rate will be much lower. However, if they weren't posting videos every single day, obviously these numbers would look much better. So right now you can see they're getting 3 or 4% engagement, even though they're posting every single day, which is okay. It's not the best, but it's pretty decent. If they were posting once a week, I'm pretty sure they would get at least 5 to 10% engagement rate. So don't be too strict when it comes to looking at engagement rate, because if they're posting loads of content, and in this case they're posting loads of YouTube short videos as well, you can't be too strict with that, and they could very well still be great influencers even though they have 3 to 4% engagement rate. And in this case I know for a fact that they are pretty great influencers to work with. Okay, so that's pretty much what we should look for in great influencers. But how do we actually go about and find these influencers in the first place? There are actually 5 unique ways that I personally go about researching YouTube influencers, and I'll be sharing with them to you right now. The first thing that we can do is actually look at the YouTube trending page. If you go to YouTube right now and you click on the explore button, you should see a bunch of trending videos. And what you can do is go to the very top and just click on whatever category or niche that you're selling in. Now there's only a few over here, so if you're selling in very big niches like fashion and beauty, it should be pretty straightforward to just find channels and influencers by clicking on the tab and looking at all the channels that appear in this section. But if you're in a more niche category, you're not going to find many videos on the trending page, so it's going to be a bit harder to find influencers, but there are still a few unique things that you can do. The second thing that you can do is simply just type in a keyword of your niche onto YouTube. So if we go ahead and just type in camping, for example, and then simply filter, if I can spell, let's type in camping into YouTube and simply filter by view count and the last month. And what we can do is we can find YouTubers who are posting content recently and going viral in the camping niche. So the first thing that we see over here is this video from Warger. Let's go ahead and click on his channel. And if we click on his channel, we can see that actually his engagement is pretty amazing. All of his videos get more views than he has subscribers, and he's posting pretty frequently as well. So this is an example of a great influencer that if you're running in the camping niche, you can look at reaching out to him. So that's the second thing that we can do to actually find influencers, and we can find a bunch of them just by scrolling down over here. And I'm not logged into YouTube right now, so we're getting other languages in the search results, but once you're logged into your brand account, you'll make sure that as long as it's set to English, you'll only see relevant videos. But essentially, once you find the channel in your niche, one thing that you can do is just click on this channel tab over here, and you can see other channels that this particular YouTuber is subscribed to. And the chances are that a YouTuber is probably subscribed to other YouTubers that's making similar content to them. So in this case, we can see that he's subscribed to this bushcraft channel, which is similar to camping as well. So we can go ahead and click on that, and we can see that this YouTuber, this influencer, is making loads of similar content. And we can basically do this process multiple times by clicking on the channels tab, and we can find loads of influencers just by clicking through multiple channels, just like we were doing right now. The fourth thing that you can do is just click on any YouTube video in your niche and go ahead and scroll to the related video section. So if you scroll down over here and then you click on related videos, just by clicking on this tag, you can see loads of other YouTubers who are making similar content in the same niche. You can see Alex Wild here, you can see a bunch of other YouTube channels that's posting content recently that's going viral, so you know it's a good influencer if their content is going viral. And then you can go ahead and just scroll through loads of channels here, and you can build up a list pretty quickly of loads of high quality influencers in your niche. And as soon as we find one, let's see Joe over here, we can go ahead and do the same thing that we did before. We go ahead and see what channels that he's subscribed to personally, and chances are we'll find a bunch of other bushcraft channels or camping channels if we scroll through this entire subscription list. And the fifth thing that you can do to find great influencers is simply, again, go ahead and click on any video in your niche and then scroll down to the comment section and look at the commenters. What we want to do is just open up the YouTube channels of whoever's commenting on these videos and just check who those people are also subscribed to. Because chances are someone is not following just one influencer in a specific niche. If you think about who you follow online for specific whatever niche you're following, you're probably not subscribed to only one influencer in that niche. You're subscribed to a couple of people. So essentially we're just reverse engineering that, and we're looking at the subscribers of this channel or anyone who's commenting, and we're just seeing who else they're subscribed to, and we'll probably find a bunch of other high quality influencers by doing this. Well, if we go over here and click on this channel, we can see that this guy is subscribed to loads of different channels that's public. I know all of these channels are camping related, but I can bet that if you look through it, you can probably find a bunch of other camping related YouTubers. I can see something like the Jungle Brothers over here. So there's a good chance that loads of the channels that he is subscribed to is related to camping or bushcraft or something in that same field. So you would just go ahead and do this multiple times, open up loads of subscribers and commenters YouTube accounts and see who they're publicly subscribed to, and chances are you'll find a pretty good amount of YouTube influencers in that specific niche. So those are pretty much the 5 things that you can do to find great influencers in any niche. Number 1, go to the explore page. If you have a very general niche or you're selling a generic product, you can pretty much work with any influencer. So anyone on the trending page is probably a good influencer that you can look at reaching out to. The second thing you can do is just type in your keyword into YouTube and filter by recent videos that have got a high amount of views. And you can find a bunch of channels that are producing high quality content that's going viral and reach out to them because they're potentially great influencers to work with. The third thing you can do is check who those YouTube channels are subscribed to, and chances are they're following their creator friends who probably make similar content, or people just generally in their niche. So you'll probably find great channels by looking at the subscription lists. The fourth thing you can do is look at the recommended video section. This is just looking at all the popular videos in your niche, clicking to the right and seeing what other videos are suggested for you to watch next, because chances are they're going to be similar creators in a similar niche, and they're also going to be great influencers to work with. And the fifth thing, which I just showed you how to do, is clicking through subscribers' channels and checking who they're publicly subscribed to, and then finding influencers who are similar to the original one that you were looking at. Okay, so I've touched on how to find great influencers and what to look for in great influencers, but let's move on to how you should actually structure your ads so you can see a great ROI. Personally, from my experience of working with loads of influencers, we've always seen best results on YouTube when we do 1 to 2 minute mid-video integrations rather than full unboxing videos or ads that are right at the beginning of the video. Now that doesn't mean that those formats don't work, because I have seen it work very well in the past. However, personally, for my own results, I've always seen the best performance when you put your ad in the middle of a video and it's around 1 to 2 minutes long. Now first of all, the reason why I would strongly recommend not doing dedicated unboxing videos or just full videos with big influencers specifically talking about your product is, first of all, that video won't get as many views as a typical video on the channel would. Let's just say the average video gets 100,000 views on the channel. If you pay that influencer to only do a dedicated video for your product, chances are that video would only get maybe 50,000 views, just because people don't like watching 7-10 minute ads. And also it would cost a crazy amount, more than 10 times what an influencer would charge just for a 30-second or 1 minute or 2 minute integration. They'll charge for a dedicated video. And it just doesn't make sense if you're looking at the direct ROI to run a full dedicated YouTube video ad. So I would always recommend 1 to 2 minute ads, put it in the middle of a video, and that video has to be a generic video, whatever the influencer would usually make. That video would get way more views than a dedicated video would, and you would get way more eyeballs on your actual ad when people come around to that actual part of the video. Now another really important thing is that, again, you make the video ads 1 to 2 minutes long. And I see loads of big brands on YouTube running really short 10 or 15-second ads just before a video starts, and that really doesn't work, and it just doesn't drive conversions. A very popular example of this that you've probably seen before are videos that are sponsored by Squarespace. Now you've probably heard of that a lot, and that might have given you the idea that doing a video ad, a similar format to them where you simply say your video is sponsored by X brand, would actually drive conversions for you. But I can pretty much guarantee you'll see no results if you run an ad that only says this video was sponsored by your brand name. You really need to make sure your ad is a minimum of 1 minute long in order for people to understand what your product is, for you to do a demonstration, pitch it, show the benefits and features, and then actually convert people on that offer. What big brands like Squarespace are doing when they're doing these really short 10 or 15-second ads, they aren't looking for direct ROI, they don't measure that. They're just looking for the views and brand awareness. But obviously, as a new e-commerce store, maybe if you just launched your brand, you want to see a direct ROI, a strong, solid ROAS from the influencer campaign. And in order to get that solid ROAS, you can't be running 15-second ads. Your ads have to be properly structured so that people understand your product because they're probably seeing it for the first time and then actually want to purchase it by you giving them a specific offer or discount, which we'll get into. So please don't under any circumstances pay influencers just for 10 or 15-second ads where they simply say something like, this video is sponsored by your brand name, and expect to drive sales from that, because chances are you're driving no sales and you'll be burning money. That's only for the really big brands that don't necessarily care about the direct ROI and they just have huge budgets that they need to spend and they will just spend it on anyone. They don't really go into the details that we go into in order to maximize the ROI. Now, how do we actually structure the ads to be optimal in terms of performance? We've always seen best results when we made sure the ad was disguised as content. I've talked about this concept before, but essentially when people don't realize that they're being promoted to and they see an ad for a product that they think the influencer is genuinely promoting because they genuinely like it, they're much more likely to convert on that offer. So one way you can actually effectively deploy this, ask them to promote the product in the middle of whatever they're doing. Don't ask them to do a separate cut where they're in their house or in their room or somewhere different to where they are in the video and then do a recording of your product and explaining it. Because most likely when people see that cut, they can easily just skip through and they will just skip past your ad. What you want to do is make sure your ad is kind of part of the content itself, so that when people see it, they'll be happy to watch it because it's part of the video itself. Now, this doesn't mean that if you do a random cut in the middle of a video and then transition to the ad, it doesn't mean that that won't work, because I have seen it work in the past. But what I am saying is you'll see much better results if you get the influencer to promote a product during whatever they're doing inside of that specific video and not cutting to another scene or another location just to promote the product. So disguising your ad as content and working it in the middle of the video will prevent drop-off and it will drive much more conversions because people won't skip past it. Okay, so what do our actual ads look like? If you're selling in the beauty niche, which is what we primarily do, it's very straightforward to actually promote a product because you can actually do a demonstration of the product, you can show how it works, the features and the benefits. If you're selling in the jewelry niche, you might need to play around with the ad, maybe make it more of a try-on haul so you can send influencers loads of different pieces of jewelry or loads of different pieces of clothing if you're in the clothing niche and then get them to review it. It really depends product to product, but just for example, if you're in the beauty niche, what we would do is typically start off the actual ad with a story. So we get the influencer to transition into a story and talk about a personal experience, something that they went through, something that also ties into the video so it doesn't look like a random cut like I said before. And essentially this story would be a personal experience of a problem the influencer has faced, and then we would slowly introduce our product and say how this product helped the influencer resolve whatever problem that they're going through. So let's just take the traditional example of like the pore vacuum. If the influencer was suffering from acne, or they had loads of blackheads, or they put on makeup all the time and they just had loads of clog of makeup on their face, they could use the pore vacuum to kind of remove all that dirt from the skin, and just like that they can easily clean up their face. So that's just an example of a story and then a quick transition into a product and how the product was basically the solution to whatever problem the influencer was going through. Then they would transition to a really strong and hard pitch. This would be about 15 to 30 seconds long. And this is a really important part of the promotion that most people mess up. What you really want to do here is make sure that people are really convinced of clicking whatever call to action that you're telling them to do. So what we usually do is we start off with introducing urgency and scarcity tactics. So we say something like, for the next 100 customers, or for the first 500 customers, for the first 5,000 customers, whatever the number might be, depending on how big the influencer is, you will receive X amount off, maybe 10% off, if you place an order within the next, how many hours. Essentially what you're doing then is you're creating some urgency or scarcity, and you're telling people or you're incentivizing people to click on a specific call to action at that specific moment. We would go ahead and add in the justification. And essentially the justification is the logical reason behind why people should purchase at that exact moment. Because obviously you've heard it 1,000 times, 50% off, 60% off. Everyone's heard that a lot of times, so it doesn't really mean much now. Even if you introduce scarcity and urgency tactics, chances are people won't be too compelled to purchase just because they've heard it a dozen, hundreds of times. So what you want to do is add in the justification, which is essentially the logical reason as to why people should purchase at that exact moment. So what you can do, just for example, is say something like, our brand is celebrating 10,000 happy customers, and that's the reason why we're doing this special sale. Or maybe if it's a special event like Thanksgiving or Black Friday or Christmas, you can say that the reason for the sale is that specific event. Or maybe let's just say you release a new product, you could say the reason for the sale is to celebrate our new product launch. We're giving away 100 units at 10% off, or whatever it might be. So essentially what you want to do here is just add a reason, a logical reason that people could understand as to why they need to make a purchase at that exact moment, and why the offer won't be there for much longer. You want to say the call to action at least 2 times to really reinforce the message for the audience to go ahead and do whatever action the influencer wants them to do. But again, like I said, this is just the format that we use for our ads. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll work for your product. Obviously, if you're selling in a different niche, a product that's not like a problem-solving product, this specific format won't work, so you really need to test. But really the most popular formats that I've seen personally work is if you're doing an e-commerce product that's kind of like a generic product. But another format that I have seen work before is, let's say if you're selling clothing or jewelry, or you're in any niche that has multiple products in a specific collection, you could do like a try and haul or a review of all those different products so that the audience can see kind of a range of different stuff. And then you can obviously link a collection page in the description box. But okay, so let's move on to other best practice that you can follow. One thing that I've personally seen great results with is whenever we ask the influencer to integrate our product into their video naturally, either by placing it in the near background of the video, let's just say the whole video they're speaking in front of the camera. If our product is placed in the background, people will get curious about the video. They'll notice it. As long as the camera has got good focus on it, they'll see it. And obviously later on in the video, when the influencer actually introduces the product, people will be much more likely to actually believe the influencer is authentically and genuinely promoting this product because they like it, because it's been placed in the background. It's not something that's been randomly plucked out just because the influencer has to mention it. If it's something that they genuinely like, they'll probably keep it in the background anyway. So another thing that you can do if you have a product that the influencer can wear, like jewelry or clothing, just get the influencer to wear that product for the entire video. They don't need to promote it at the very beginning, they just need to wear the product, and the audience will obviously just notice that. And when the time does come around to actually promote the product, the audience can see that the influencer genuinely likes the product because they've been wearing it the whole video, and they're much more likely to believe the promotion is authentic and actually convert. Now another best practice to follow is just make sure that the links to your e-commerce store is right at the top of the description. I personally just put a line just right before the link so that the link doesn't appear in the preview text, because I've seen that for some reason when your link appears in the preview text, the video seems to get much less views. You don't want the influencer to put their own description at the very top and then push your link all the way to the bottom, which chances are that if they have a really long description, people won't be able to find your link and they'll just click off, and you're just losing sales just because of that. Also, it's a good idea to put your brand tags in the video tag section of YouTube. So whenever you upload a video to YouTube, you can upload tags, and just ask your influencer before they post a video, add your brand name as a tag on that video. So anytime someone types in your brand on YouTube, they can see that influencer and it will help add some credibility to your brand. But okay, let's move on to how much you should actually pay for influence ads. Now there's 2 different parts of this. There's actually what you can expect to pay versus what you actually pay. And these things vary differently because obviously you can expect to pay a certain number, but really what you end up paying is whatever the influencer asks for. So there's no specific price guide that influencers go by. Every influencer can generate their own price, so there's no point in me telling you that this influencer with X amount of subscribers will charge X amount, because it's really up to them, so I could never tell you that. But what you can typically expect is for an influencer to charge anywhere from $500 to $2,000 per 100,000 views they get on their channel. And again, this really does depend on who the influencer is. Some niches will be much more expensive, but in general, let's say if it's a gaming channel, they will charge $500 per 100,000 views for a 1 to 2 minute mid-video integration. If your video ad is much longer than that, then obviously they will charge a higher price. If it's a full dedicated video, which I don't recommend doing, it would obviously charge way more than that. So it really depends on who the channel is itself. If it's a channel that traditionally has a low CPM on YouTube, then you can expect to pay a lower amount to run an ad on that channel, just because those influencers know their audience has a lower purchasing power, so you probably won't pay as much. But let's just say, for example, you're promoting to a much more higher class audience, let's just say mothers or just females that are above 40 plus in the US. Any influencer with that demographic obviously is going to charge way more for an ad, because women 40 plus in the US have loads of purchasing power, and chances are they'll be much more likely to purchase your product than a 20-year-old who's watching gaming videos. So it really depends on the niche that you're working in. Niches that don't sell generic products will probably have much more higher prices, compared to these generic channels like vlog channels or gaming channels, stuff that gets the most views. Really, what you would expect to pay higher prices is the same channels that YouTube would pay a high CPM to. So if we go back to Joe over here, we can see that his average views vary big time, but he gets anywhere from 100,000 to 300,000 views per video. So I would expect him to charge anywhere from maybe $3,000 to $6,000 for just a 2-minute video integration. But again, it really depends. You need to reach out to your creators and see what they charge. But just as kind of an expectation, because he has a much more niche down audience, camping isn't like a really big niche, and there's also not many video creators in the camping niche in the first place, he knows that he commands much more of an authority in the space, so he can get away with charging a lot more because there's not many other creators that you can go to that get his amount of views in the camping space that you can actually pay to get ads from. So because there's only a few creators in this space, and he's one of the biggest ones, he can command his own prices and people will just have to pay that price because really there's no one else that will accept less and also get a similar amount of views. I'll talk about this a bit more in a few minutes, but what really matters is just how loyal an audience is and how much purchasing power they have. It's really easy for a channel with 50,000 subscribers to outperform a channel with 1 million subscribers as long as that small channel has really strong purchasing power, maybe it's a channel just for 50-plus-year-olds, and also the creator has fantastic engagement on their videos. Whereas the big channel mostly has teenagers following their stuff, and they also don't have great engagement. So don't look at it too deeply when it comes to pricing, because even a channel that charges $3,000 for a video integration and they only get 50,000 views might still be a good deal. It really depends on how loyal and how strong their audience is and if they have good purchasing power or not. That audience could generate tens of thousands of dollars in sales, and I've literally seen this before. A channel that had 50,000 subscribers generated over $70,000 in sales just from one video because the audience was that strong. So run the numbers for yourself. As soon as you do a few influencer deals on YouTube, you'll kind of get an idea of what you can actually afford to pay based on the number of sales you generated from previous campaigns. And just based on those numbers, you know how much you can pay for future campaigns and you can scale accordingly. What can you actually start doing in order to scale up? First thing that I would do is whenever we run a successful promotion with a YouTube influencer, I would go ahead and reach out to them and ask them if we can work with them on a long-term basis and basically book 3 or 4 video posts with them over the next month or 2-month period. Essentially, all we're doing here is working with the same influencer multiple times and capturing their audience, targeting the audience multiple times on multiple future videos so that we can maximize the amount of revenue we make from their audience. And typically what you see is that when you do work with an influencer multiple times and you set up a long-term posting agreement, you'll get a discount on the total price for those promotions just because you're guaranteeing X amount of money for that influencer in the future. You would go ahead and pay a bigger amount up front, but that does lead to you getting a cheaper cost per video ad, so you can basically save money when you work with influencers on a long-term basis and book multiple promotions with them. It's really a no-brainer because if the influencer has converted your offer to their audience one time, it's very likely that if you work with them multiple times, they'll convert just as well. And maybe if you refine your offer and change up the creative a little bit, you can even get it to convert even better. One thing that I've personally noticed when working with YouTube influencers is that they just take a longer time to saturate when compared to Instagram influencers. If you're working with Instagram influencers on their stories, typically after the first post, you would see maybe a 5 or 10% reduction on the second post. It might be about the same, but usually it's about a 5 or 10% reduction. By the time you do a third post, you'll notice something much more visible, like 10 or 20%, maybe even 30%. And by the time you get to the fourth post, it'll be a huge reduction, maybe even 40 or 50% reduction in sales that you would generate from the Instagram influencer. When it comes to YouTube, I've noticed that you can work with them multiple times on multiple videos, and you don't really see a drop off. It takes much longer to saturate the audience, and really you won't see that after the second post or the third post, there'll be a huge drop in sales, because really with YouTube, the video reaches a new segment of people every single time, and especially if a video goes viral, it would reach a completely new segment of people who haven't seen your ad before. So the chances of the conversion rate dropping on your ad is much lower than it is with Instagram. Now obviously this does depend on the size of the YouTuber, because the bigger the YouTuber, the more potential audience that can actually see your ad, so it'll take a longer time to saturate a really big audience than compared to a really small audience. But in general, you can pretty much expect the 3 or 4 posts that you do book out in advance to perform just about the same as the first post, obviously as long as the offer and creative is just as good as the first one. Now one thing to keep in mind here is that some creators obviously post less frequently. They might only make 1 video every week or 2 weeks, and typically we leave 1 video between every single ad that we do. So if they're only posting once a week, then we would work with them once every 2 weeks. The second thing that you can look at doing in order to scale up is work with them multi-channel. Basically, most of the time these YouTubers probably have Instagram accounts that have huge followings and great engagement as well. You can go ahead and click on the channel and just click on the Instagram links, maybe in the description page or maybe in the description of a video itself. You can find their Instagram pretty easily, and essentially you want to work with them on Instagram, pay them for a story post or feed post. Typically, I would recommend story posts because they can convert much better than feed posts. And you can pretty much promote the exact same offer in the exact same structure as you did on YouTube if it was proven to work for you before. And you can do the same thing that we talked about before, book them to work on that specific channel, maybe Instagram, multiple times. So you can book 3 or 4 story posts over the next month. But I would be slightly less aggressive with how frequently you're posting ads on Instagram because like I said, there is a drop off. So unless you're really changing up your entire creative, your offer, maybe even your product, you'll notice that after a couple of promotions, usually 2 or 3 promotions on Instagram, the audience and the offer will start converting much less. But the third thing you can do in order to scale up is use the same YouTube creative that the influencer made for the ad and run that as a YouTube ad against the influencer's channel. This is pretty straightforward to do. All you need to do is just download a specific segment of the video that the YouTuber did create for you promoting your product, and then you would go to the Google Ads Manager and just set up a YouTube campaign targeting either that specific video where the influencer did promote you or just the entire channel in general. And your ad will probably have a much higher click-through rate because obviously when people are watching that YouTuber's channel and they see a paid ad coming up of the influencer themselves, they're much more likely to click on it because they're watching the person in the first place and they already know who that person is. And the fourth thing you can do in order to scale out your YouTube influencer marketing campaigns is just go crazy with it and message as many people as possible. Obviously, if your product has converted well on the first promotion that you did do, it's got a good ROAS, it was profitable, or at least it was break even and you really want to ramp up your spend, you can just go ahead and message all the similar influencers that are related and making similar content to the original influencers that you work with. And sure, not all of them might be profitable, but what you'll find is that, let's just say you do 100 influencer promotions on YouTube, maybe 15 of them are really great influencers, and you can work with them multiple times, and you can turn them into brand ambassadors that constantly promote your brand. One thing that I've personally done in order to reach a lot of influencers in a really short time span, instead of emailing hundreds of them or thousands of them, if you go to an agency, maybe a PR agency or a talent management agency, you'll find that they usually have direct contact to loads of high quality influencers. Typically, agencies specialize in specific niches. So if you find an agency managing people just in, let's say, the beauty niche, they probably manage loads of beauty influencers. Or maybe if you're working with pregnant mother influencers or just mother influencers, they probably manage a lot of other mother influencers, someone in that exact same niche. So what you can quickly do in order to ramp up your spend quickly, just go to one of these agencies that specialize in your specific niche and ask them what are the rates to book out your entire roster. How can I work with the entire roster of influencers that they have? Chances are the entire roster will be high quality influencers. Like I said before, people on YouTube tend to already be high quality influencers, but also agencies don't want to ruin their reputation by working with low quality talent. So they probably have a lot of high quality talent on their roster. And if you book them all out, just ask them what are your rates to book out your entire roster. And as long as they're happy to work with you, you can pretty much scale up the spend on your product very quickly. So that's pretty much all I would do in terms of scaling up my product. Number 1, work with the influencer multiple times. Number 2, look at working with them on multiple channels. Number 3, look at running the creatives that they made for you in the first place as YouTube ads through the Google platform. And number 4, just go crazy with it and message hundreds and thousands of influencers, reach out to agencies and try to book as many people as possible as long as your ROAS is profitable. But okay, so let's move on to why YouTube influencer marketing is super effective. These are my personal reasons of why I love the platform and why we personally work with YouTube influencers quite a lot. First thing is that the traffic lasts forever. Unlike Instagram or Snapchat where you can post a 24-hour story, obviously after 24 hours that post is down, you won't get any more sales from that influencer. Even if you did a feed post on Instagram, after pretty much 8 hours, most of the sales will die down. After 24 hours, it will pretty much be zero. When it comes to YouTube, the traffic never dies out. YouTube videos that we've posted with the influencers even 2.5 years ago still generate sales for us and bring traffic to our store to this day. And that's because YouTube videos don't die out. Sure, they might dip and they might not get as many views as they did when they were originally posted, but there is a chance that your YouTube video might go viral and it might still get loads of views in the future. In our case, we have videos, like I said, from 2.5 years ago that are still getting views today. Even if your video doesn't go viral, your video can still get views many years or many months into the future, and you're basically building up a traffic stream that even though you're not paying for ads in the future, you'll still be getting traffic. So basically, unlike Instagram or Facebook where you set up an ad and you constantly have to manage it, and once it's off, when you turn off the campaign, you won't get any more sales. With YouTube, you can run an ad years ago or months ago, and even if you stop running ads now, you would still have traffic or at least some sales trickle in from the ads that you posted a long time ago. And there's also a compounding effect added onto that, because let's just say you work with 100 influencers, maybe you have 100 video ads where your product is mentioned in them. You'll be getting traffic from all those 100 video ads months into the future, and it kind of adds up. So even if you turned off all your campaigns, those 100 videos would still be driving traffic to your website. And that's why I say that even if you're breaking even with YouTube influence ads off the bat, let's just say, 2 days after your promotion, you've just about broken even, that's completely fine, because a couple months into the future, that video will still bring you sales and then you'll be profitable. The second thing is that there's also massive SEO benefits of working with YouTube influencers. When your brand is constantly being linked inside of YouTube, obviously YouTube is owned by Google, and Google will favor your store better on just generic rankings if you're doing blog posts. Because you have so many backlinks from YouTube to your website, there's a good chance that YouTube will rank you higher. And another great thing I love about YouTube, and this is probably one of my favorite things about the platform, is that you can have your video that you work with an influencer on go viral and get a crazy amount of views. Now, unlike Instagram, where you pay an Instagram influencer who gets 50,000 story views a certain amount, and you can expect that certain amount of views to be delivered on your specific ad, when it comes to YouTube influencers, there is a good chance, a much higher likely chance, that your video might go viral, and you can benefit from the huge upside of getting a huge amount of views for basically free because your video went viral. And I've personally had an example where one of our ads that we paid an influencer about $400 for, they were getting like 100,000 views on the video, 150,000, and we worked with them on a specific video, and that video went viral. It got 2 million views, and we're basically still generating sales on that video even 2.5 years later. And obviously another great reason to integrate YouTube into your store's overall marketing strategy is because you don't have to rely just on one platform. If you're just running Facebook ads right now, or if you're just running TikTok ads, let's just say CPMs suddenly skyrocket and your ads are no longer profitable, just having YouTube influencers as another potential traffic stream, and again, a traffic stream that you can kind of set up once and still expect to generate sales from in months or years time, it's just a safe way to guarantee future sales. And even the day that I'm recording this right now, Facebook CPMs on my ad account just randomly tripled for no particular reason, and stuff like this happens with Facebook all the time. When you work with YouTube influencers and you have that strategy as part of your overall marketing plan, you don't have to constantly worry about Facebook CPMs randomly skyrocketing or maybe your ad account getting banned. Once you're less reliant on one specific channel, you can basically sleep much more easy at night. So just to summarize why YouTube influencers are so effective, number one, the traffic won't die out. You'll still be generating sales in months or years time. Number two, your videos could go viral, which means that you're massively benefiting from the upside of getting potentially millions or hundreds of thousands of views that you weren't expecting. And number three, you're less reliant on one specific ad platform. So let's just say if the ad platform does go down or you have some issues there, you don't have to worry about your business completely dying out overnight. And number four, there's massive SEO benefits. Let's just say you are writing blog posts. You can expect your posts to rank better just because you have loads of backlinks from YouTube into your website. Okay, but now let's go over some of the common pitfalls and downsides of working with YouTube influencers that I've personally experienced. First thing is that when you're working with YouTube influencers, you can typically expect the content for YouTube influencers to create for your ad to take a much longer time to deliver than an Instagram influencer, for example. If you think about it, creating a story ad is fairly straightforward. As soon as the influencer receives the product, they can just take out their phone and start recording. But when it comes to running a YouTube video integration, it might take maybe even a week to create a specific piece of content, and sometimes these creators have their videos already lined up, so you might have to wait multiple weeks in order for your ad to actually go live because they need to record a video, they need to edit it, and it's just a much longer process than simply recording an Instagram story. So if you're a bit impatient and you just want your ads to go live ASAP, and you're kind of like me, then it certainly is a bit frustrating working with YouTube influencers sometimes, just because of the long turnaround times. And the second thing is that it's also very hard to revise content. With an Instagram influencer, if they record a story and they send it to you, you don't happen to like it, maybe you didn't follow the brief, they can easily re-record it. It'll take a few minutes of their day. That's not a big deal. But with a YouTube influencer, they might have edited the whole video already. And again, like I said before, you don't want random cuts in the video to your ad. So they should have recorded the ad whilst they were filming whatever content they were doing. So if they are going to re-record that content, it's obviously going to have to be a cut. They have to edit out the original ad and add in this specific ad. And it's obviously not going to look as natural as they would have if they were doing that specific ad at that specific moment. So you're just going to notice it's going to be much harder and much more inconvenient for YouTubers to re-record and revise ad content as it would be when compared to Instagram influencers. But how about some of the common pitfalls and mistakes that I see people make when they're first working with YouTube influencers? First thing I would say is that same with Instagram, I've said this multiple times, is your ads are too short. you're only paying for 15 seconds, 30 seconds of screen time, but that's simply not enough time for people to understand what your product is and what it is you offer. You might see other brands doing this like Squarespace or some of the big brands, but like I said before, they're not looking for direct ROI and conversions, they're just looking for brand awareness. So don't run really short ads like they're doing. Make sure your ads are at least a minute or 2 minutes long. Pay for that screen time. Don't be cheap. Let's just say an influencer charges $800 for a 15-second ad, but $2,000 for a 2-minute ad. That 15-second ad won't drive you $800 in sales, but if you pay the influencer for the $2,000 ad and run a 2-minute ad, you'll generate thousands of sales, potentially. So don't be cheap and run really short ads. Pay extra just to get a longer amount of screen time, and you'll notice that your conversions will significantly boost in a higher proportion to the amount of screen time you bought. So number one, pay more for a longer screen time of your ad. And number two, you want to make sure you test multiple variations of your creative and of your offer. Don't run just one influencer campaign and it doesn't happen to work and say that YouTube influencer marketing doesn't work, because it does work. What you need to do is just figure out what offer and what creative works best and what format works best for your specific product, and then test with multiple influencers. Maybe the influencer you work with didn't have the best audience, but don't give up after just the first go. I would say at least work with 2 or 3 influencers for your specific product, and make sure you test a few different variations of the structure of the promotion itself. And as long as you're constantly refining it over time, there's a good chance that your promotion will eventually be profitable. Okay, now let's move on to a couple other helpful extra notes that I've personally learned when working with YouTube influencers. The first thing is that don't underestimate the power of a really small and niche audience. There are loads of strong, really small communities of just loyal audiences that can convert very well on your specific offer, because they can literally generate you even 6 figures in sales if you correctly structure a promotion with them the right way and you offer them the right product. But number 2 is that people follow people that they look like. So if you're selling a specific product or a specific niche and you have your target audience in mind, the demographic, the age, the gender, etc., all you need to do is just find influencers that look like your target customer. In general, people follow people that they have similar looks to, or characteristics, or similar hobbies. So as long as you specifically look for influencers who have those specific same hobbies or characteristics or looks, there's a good chance you'll find your target audience that's also watching that specific influencer. And number 3 is only do full dedicated unboxing or review videos with smaller creators, and not pay 10-15x for a full dedicated video with a huge influencer. The reason why I say this is, first of all, it won't be cost effective if you do it with a big influencer. But the second reason is also because with smaller influencers, let's just say you want to do an unboxing video that ranks on YouTube, so that whenever someone types in your brand name, they can see a specific video, a specific channel talking about your product for a whole video. You don't need that specific channel to be a huge channel, because the chances are that the people searching for your brand in the first place don't know that specific influencer. So if you're paying an influencer with 100,000 subscribers to make a dedicated video, the majority of people searching for your brand probably doesn't know who that person is in the first place. So you're just paying an unreasonably high amount to a person to make a video who most people watching that video don't know who he is in the first place. And the fourth thing you can do, and this is pretty smart, is that you can pay an influencer extra to do a specific thing inside of their video. Now let me explain. So we were working with a female influencer, and we obviously wanted the video that our ad is in to go viral, because obviously if we're paying her to run a video, we want to make sure that video does really good so that we can benefit from the upside of that video. And whilst we were brainstorming ideas, there was one idea where it involved her basically bringing over her boyfriend, flying over her boyfriend from whatever state he was in, and then they could do a video together because they haven't done a video together in months. And obviously we knew that I would get way more views than her traditional video would, because it's a bit more unique in terms of the content itself. So we went ahead and paid extra just for her to buy the plane ticket for her boyfriend to come over, and the video that we did run with them had her boyfriend featuring in it, and it got way more views than the typical video would, just because it was a bit of unique content. Now the fifth thing is that you also want smaller curious creators to work with you. And what I mean by that is that as soon as you do run a couple YouTube promotions or Instagram promotions, you'll notice that loads of people will just start DMing you and asking if they can collaborate with you. Usually these are just small creators, people who are just getting started, and all they want is a free product, and in exchange they'll integrate the product into one of their videos or do a free post for you. Now we pretty much always say yes to these people, just because first of all we can get a lot of content, and all we need to do is send them a free product. Especially if your product is very cheap or not expensive to send out, there's pretty much no harm in sending them a free product. And especially if you're sending out hundreds of free packages to these smaller creators, there is a good chance at least one of them does make a really good piece of content, And if you don't repurpose it for paid media ads in the future, maybe the ad again does go viral, the video does go viral, and you can massively benefit from it. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and recap and summarize all the important things that we did learn today. Okay, so the first thing, how can we actually identify great influencers? First thing you want to look for is 5 to 10% engagement rate on videos. If they have 100,000 subscribers, if they're getting 5 to 10,000 views on every single video, that's a great sign. Again, it does depend on how frequently they are posting videos. You can be a bit more lenient, maybe 3 or 4% if they're posting every single day. If they're posting once a month, then 10% should be like the minimum you're looking for. Number 2, in order to find influencers, we can go ahead and just use keywords, type in whatever niche you're selling in into the YouTube search, and go ahead and filter by channels who've posted in the last 1 month, and go ahead and filter by views as well. So you can go ahead and find all the popular channels who are posting content in that specific niche in the past month. And once you find a specific channel that is posting really good content, you can go ahead and find loads of similar channels just by clicking on their videos and go looking at their related video section, or by simply checking who that channel is subscribed to, and chances are they're subscribed to loads of other similar content creating channels as well. Number 3, you want to make sure your video ads are structured to be at least 1 or 2 minutes long, not really short 15 or 30-second ads because people won't understand what your product is. A good 1 or 2 minutes where you can do a demonstration, show what your product is, talk about all the features and benefits that are really important, and you'll notice that converts much better. It's even better if you actually disguise your ad as content and place it in the middle of the video so that people don't skip past it. And also you can hook people in initially by telling a story, getting the influencer to share a personal experience. And once you have people hooked into that story, you can basically pitch the solution to the problem that the influencer has mentioned in the story as being your product. In terms of how much you should pay influencers, again it varies big time, but just to say as a rule of thumb, about $500 to $2,000 per 100,000 views the influencer gets on a video. The price does change depending on the quality of the audience, the niche of the channel, what kind of CPM they would traditionally get. If it's a really specific niche audience, such as, let's say if you're running an ad on an entrepreneur's channel, obviously you're going to expect to pay a lot more because the audience has much higher purchasing power. If you're running an ad on a gaming channel, obviously there's loads of teens following that channel, so they don't have as much purchasing power, and you can be on the lower end of that price chart I just showed you. The next point, scaling up. One good way to scale up is by using multi-channel. So if an influencer works well on YouTube, go ahead and partner with them on Instagram or Snapchat, whatever channels they have, and there's a good chance your offer will convert well with their audience on those channels as well. Second thing that you can do again is find loads of other similar influencers, work with talent agencies and PR agencies, and book out the entire roster or the entire contacts of people that they do have in a similar niche, and just work with as many creators as possible as long as your offer is profitable. And again, running YouTube ads natively through the Google platform and simply using the creative that the influencer made as the ad in the original video might be a smart thing that you can test out. Remember to only specifically target that YouTuber's channel or that specific video itself when you're running the creative as a YouTube ad. And the last point is that running at break even on YouTube is completely fine, because what you'll notice is that eventually one of the videos that you did post an ad in will eventually go viral and you can break into the profitability zone. But also you'll notice that sales still trickle in from videos that you posted months or even years ago. And even after a few months of not running any advertising as well, you'll still be generating sales as long as you have loads of videos that are posted on YouTube. Just because YouTube videos don't die out, they constantly bring in traffic, unlike Instagram or Facebook ads. But yeah guys, I hope that was pretty helpful. That was my A to Z guide on pretty much everything you need to know when working with YouTube influencers. I've shared with you all the knowledge I've personally learned when working with thousands of influencers over the past couple of years. And hopefully you know pretty much everything you need to in order to start running YouTube ads yourself. Obviously, experience is the best teacher, so once you actually start running ads yourself, you'll figure out what actually works and what doesn't work. And really the fastest way that you can learn and start collecting some data is by starting to run some ads. So first thing I would do is start work with some small creators. Don't randomly start spending thousands for YouTube ads. Start with small creators, maybe they charge a couple $100s for ads, and see how your ads convert on a small scale. That's where you can start split testing the different structure for your ads or the different specific offers, and figure out what kind of variation and combination works best for you. And obviously once you've kind of perfected that structure, then you can look at working with bigger influencers and just scaling up your ad spend. If you do have any questions about YouTube influencers, feel free to drop it down in the comment section down below. I'm more than happy to respond to any of your questions. You can also hit me up on Instagram. I'll put my handle on the screen here. It's just _Philip19. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I share a bunch of influencer marketing related videos and lessons I've learned over the past couple of years of working with thousands of influencers. I have a full playlist of influencer marketing related content. If you go ahead and click on my channel, click on the playlist section, you can find a bunch of helpful videos there that will also help you speed up your journey in learning about influencer marketing. But that's basically it for this guide. I hope it was very helpful, and I will see you guys in the next one.